SteelerFury. SteelerFury.com.
This call is your SteelerFury.com podcast or SteelerFuryPodcast.com podcast. That isn't complicated enough for you. I am your host, Brad Chutta, Ben, a.k.a. Wil Masisak, a.k.a. on Twitter, Accidental Zen, for all your draft Twitter mindless musings to kill time for months before the draft. And speaking of killing time, talking draft, there are no two better humans on the planet for that than the two I have with me today. It is my pleasure to have with me once again the king of swing when it comes to draft predictions. His name is SteelPerch. He's a little under the weather, but he is in fact with us. How are you, sir?
Alive and well.
We're still alive. Hey, any day where you're on this side of the dirt is a good day. Speaking of which, I know it's a little closer for you, which side of the dirt you're on maybe, but he is our curmudgeon, our friendly curmudgeon, and Joel Bushbaum devotee. Never forget. Hashtag never forget FC. And his name is FC. He's with us. How are you, sir?
I am day to day. How are you, sir?
We're all day today.
Great.
However, the three of us have the best kind of availability. So we're once again talking about the draft. I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about the overall draft, but obviously with the focus on your Pittsburgh Steelers and what they might do in the draft, or what we might do if we were them. They should probably listen to us more. I think our drafts that we've done in this pre-draft podcast over the last few years have been pretty good. Although last year they got us pretty good. I think with particularly their top four picks, we're pretty a pretty solid draft for the Steelers. So I can't really complain too much. So this year, I think I want to start by let's talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers needs first, because in previous years I think we've been pretty much in consensus about what the Steelers' needs were year to year, and there's some there was some deviation between the three of us, but this year, like few years I can ever remember, it feels like they have a lot. There's a lot of dispute about what their needs actually are. Perch, I'm going to start with you. What do you think the Steelers' needs are, especially anything that you think is a need that you may not have heard a lot of people talking about?
I mean, if you watch the AFC Championship game, the biggest need is jumping off the screen at you. It's to be able to play a little bit of press coverage in the secondary, to have better cover corners, to have some more athletic safeties who actually have a nose for the ball. I mean, to me, I think that's by far the biggest need. And the fact that they put that low tender on Ross Cockrell and nobody even bothered to try and match it speaks volumes about what they think and what the rest of the league thinks about one of their starting corners. The other was a rookie last year. Their slot corner is 35-year-old Willie Gay. I know he's not that old, but he's getting up there. And Mike Mitchell is what he is. He's not going to change his stripes anytime soon. That's by far the biggest need is to revamp even though the first two picks last year went to the secondary, I would not be surprised or upset if they went the first two picks again at the secondary.
Yeah, so FC, the chicken or the egg argument, do the edge players make the defensive backs better enough that you can focus on adding edge, or how do you see this playing out?
Not to win a championship. I mean, we're not, teams. We compete with the New England Patriots, and they're the gold standard. This team making the playoffs, that really isn't success, especially whenever you're looking at, the last year. Maybe Ben has two left. So the Steelers window is it's just cracked. It's not open. It's cracked at this point. It's so, when you look at, Tom Brady can get the ball out in under 1.1 seconds. There ain't a pass rusher getting there. You can have Lawrence Taylor and Von Miller coming off the edge, and they're not getting there. So you got to cover them up, and you got to be able to play man coverage. I couldn't agree more with what Perch said about the safety in cornerback. We also have to get better in coverage at the secondary, at other positions, inside linebacker, outside linebacker. But I view both of those as a need. Lost Lawrence Timmons, Vince Williams, great two-down player. If this was 1991, I'd be very happy going into the season with Vince Williams. I just don't trust him in space, and I don't trust him in coverage. Outside linebacker James Harrison's 97 years old. Bud Dupree hopefully will be a player on the come, but hopefully he's rushing the passer and not in coverage. We got to be able to, the New England Patriots picked this apart out of two tight ends and a classic I formation passing the football. Now they did show some three wide receiver stuff, but for the most part they went no huddle and they went two tight ends or they went pro style offense, meaning they had a fullback in the game, Mike Devlin, and they would just spread us out completely and pick this apart. So. The Steelers, I also believe they need a quarterback. Ben's not going to be here forever. Running back, wide receiver, and Perch covered the defensive backs very well.
Yeah, I mean, here's what I would say. This is brings up an interesting discussion point. To me, the reason New England can pick you apart, and this is what they do to most teams, is most of the NFL's focus is on outside receivers. And what New England does is they use their outside receivers basically to take guys out of the way. So they're going to make you a safety deep and two cornerbacks, your two best cornerbacks wide, and then they're going to pick you apart in the middle against what they perceive as your third best, cornerback, or maybe a third safety if you play big nickel, or maybe an inside linebacker trying to cover a tight end or a bigger slot receiver, and it feels like that's where the NFL is going. In other words, that is part of what New England does that teams would do well to emulate, and I think some teams are emulating that by putting bigger guys like Larry Fitzgerald in the slot. So to me, from the Steelers standpoint, as much as I think we need a number two cornerback upgrade, to me the biggest issue is what we do in the slot and an inside linebacker or coverage linebacker. And I, like UFC, I really love Vince Williams' game for what it is, but I don't see him. When you think about Lawrence Timmons playing in the middle and cover two, and having even having good coverage in terms of trail technique behind a tight end, still not really being able to make many plays on the seam. I don't see Vince Williams being an upgrade over Timmons in that regard. So that right away is an issue. And then Willie Gay's age. I think Willie Gay, I really enjoyed his play over the last 10 years. I think he's done, or at the best would be a guy to bring off the bench as a number 4 or number 5 corner. So to me, it's like that slot and what you want to do with it in this draft, it is a big issue. I don't see that as being any more like a shorter armed, smaller framed cornerback the way it used to be in the old days. I kind of think you need this, safety corner mixture to almost play, as your base defense guy who can play against the run, who can maybe carry a tight end in the seam without being physically outmatched, but yet can be reasonably good against the Julian Edelmans of the world. Am I asking for too much, Perch?
No, not at all. I mean, that's, the NFL has really switched, I think, in the past handful of years to the premium positions after quarterback to me are edge rusher and cover corner. And the Steelers have traditionally just completely, I don't want to say neglected the corner position. They always thought they could just grab a guy and stick him in their defense and play zone with him and get by with a good pass rush. And it's almost kind of flipped now where you've got to kind of jam those guys at the line and cover them tightly to allow your good pass rushers to get home. If Tom Brady's getting the ball out in 1.5 seconds, Lawrence Taylor in his prime is not getting sacks. So, the Steelers, they need to be more multiple and more versatile. And, Tom, with his background, I kind of thought that maybe this would have come to fruition sooner. It wouldn't take New England beating that ass as many times as they have to kind of make the switch. But, from everything that the organization's saying now, they kind of see that is the way of the future. And I think that they're probably going to come out of this draft with at least 2 versatile defensive backs that can kind of cover, whether it's slot, outside, press man, zone coverage. They're going to find a couple of guys that can cover.
Yeah, well, the Steelers always react, but they have the turning radius of an oil tanker at sea, So it's 5 years later, oh yeah, remember that thing that happened back in 2010? Let's turn the boat. So FC, I mean, my thesis would be that a guy like Budda Baker, the safety from Washington, who's a slot player, and plays, he'll rush the passer for you. He plays the run. he's great in coverage, so on and so forth. He's still a little bit devalued based on where the NFL is going because of his size, right? So, in other words, maybe that's why a guy like Obi Melifonwu is pushed up the draft board and Budda Baker pushed down, despite the fact that Budda Baker was a better college player, right?
I guess, in a way. But Budda Baker has such physical limitations that were exploited whenever he didn't play garbage Pac-10 football. See, in a normal, I kind of agree, but with your thought, but I absolutely disagree with your direction. I think that Julian Peterson played in the NFL for a long time, but Carl Banks, the Clay Matthews Sr. type of outside linebacker is going to come back into the NFL. I don't think it's going to be a 5'10", 190-pound defensive back. I think it's going to be an athletic 6'3", 6'4", 230-pound outside linebacker, a player like Tyus Bowser. I don't think that T.J. Watt is necessarily going to be a very good pass rushing player in the NFL, but I think that he's going to be a better version of Clay Matthews Jr., who plays in Green Bay in the NFL, because he's a longer, naturally more athletic man at that size. I understand that Clay Matthews Jr. started off as a strong safety, but no, I don't agree that a Budda Baker is going to be the answer. I think a Budda Baker is going to have to be able to play a free safety position in the NFL because he can't handle size, big wide receivers. Yeah. I mean, an athletic tight end, one like an Evan Ingram. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I just want to say we're in agreement. I'm saying that Budda Baker is pushed down draft boards because
the
NFL
I don't think that he's, but I think that Budda Baker has every bit as a chance of success in the NFL as Malik Hooker. And I like Malik Hooker. I love him. But how many times has Malik Hooker ever really taken a man and covered him, even at Ohio State? I mean, I think they said that 4 times. Now, I believe he's going to be able to do it. But until he does it, my fear of Budda Baker is that he's so small. He really is small. And I understand there's a lot of small safeties in the NFL, but they're not playing 3 to 5 yards off the ball. Troy Polamalu, everybody says, we're going to get the next Troy Polamalu. What people don't realize is how strong and physical and how big of an outlier he actually was with his ability to get through traffic at that size and be such a special player. At one point, Troy Polamalu was probably 225 pounds. People were saying, Troy's gotten too slow, blah, 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 and then he lost weight. But I think he played at 220 pounds for his first 7-8 years in the NFL. And it was amazing how fast and quick and ground. What I think that that's the same thing they're saying about Jamal Adams. And I'm not trying to be wordy here, but if that was the answer, everybody would be going for it. The Steelers need special players in the first round of the draft. They need special players in the second round of the draft. Our coverage problems, for the most part, are a lack of talent. And I honestly see the Steelers drafting Budda Baker in the first round with the expectation of him being the next Troy Polamalu. The same thing with Peppers. And I think that takes so much away from how great of a player Troy Polamalu was. And it's funny that I'm defending Troy Polamalu the way I am because I had problems with him whenever he played. But now that he's gone and you look back at some of the shit he did, I was just like, wow, I was a knucklehead.
Well, I'm with you on all of the above.
But that was a point of mine is I think that you're going to see a transition back to the future a little bit with outside linebackers in the NFL. Like I mentioned Carl Banks on another podcast I did, and you wouldn't believe how many people had no fucking clue who he was. And I was like, wow, he really allowed LT just to be able to do what LT could do great. And I'm not taking anything away from LT, but, a college outside linebacker used to be a big thing in the 3-4. Greg Lloyd was pretty good at that, before, the defense came around.
Well, here's the thing. We've gotten used to James Harrison, right, who is not the worst at covering, his short little areas, in the flat or whatever, but he's never be confused with being a coverage linebacker. And Perch, thing you can't get away from Perch in this, in the AFC Championship game, and for that matter, for most of the latter half of the season, the Steelers, for the majority of their downs, played, basically a linebacker in James Harrison that was almost useless in coverage. Occasionally in the later stages of the game or in prevent, they brought in Jarvis Jones as a coverage linebacker. They played Jordan Dangerfield as the third safety, or Robert Golden, who was even worse. And then they played, a number 2 cornerback that nobody in the NFL wanted. So I think it's like a shotgun approach. You could take anything, right?
Well, I mean, that's where the changes have to happen. Is they're in that defense so much where their third corner is garbage, their third safety is garbage. Hell, their second corner is garbage too, and that's essentially a starter position. And the fact that they've also got to beef up their 4-man pass rush as well, where they've got some pieces to the puzzle now with Javon Hargrave and Tuitt and Hayward. And hopefully Bud Dupree makes that next step. But they can use another interior pass rushing defensive lineman if they could find one of those. Maybe a better outside, putting Harrison on the line in a 4-man is diminishing returns at this point. Whether they can get another good, even if it's more of a guy we think of as a typical 4-3 defensive end, maybe down the draft a little bit instead of spending that first round pick on the Steelers hypothetical, we talked about this before. They want to draft these outside linebackers, and one of the primary things that they use for criteria of evaluation is, can he drop in coverage? Well, who gives a shit? I wonder how well can he rush the passer is number one. And if he can't, we can kind of put a Band-Aid over it if he's not great dropping in coverage, because we don't want the guy dropping that much anyway, but that's just not the way they run their defense. But the whole thing kind of goes together. You could probably use the top 4 picks on defense because you can use an outside edge rusher, another guy, and an inside edge rusher, another safety, and another corner. And then all of a sudden, we also lost Lawrence Timmons. Okay, we've got Vince Williams, who's never played a 16-game season, Ryan Shazier, who can't stay healthy, and we got some ginger who's the backup at inside linebacker. I mean, you also have a hole there now too. So, I knew Taylor Mackevich, but
no, the thing is, it's like suddenly there's for a team that made it to the AFC Championship game last year, there's a ton of holes on defense, and we didn't even get to offense yet, which we'll do in a second. And you start thinking about who we trotted out there for half the year on offense at skill positions. It's scary. But before we get to that, let's just talk about inside linebackers for a second. And because you guys are basically giving me almost 2 opposite positions on the outside guys, meaning FC's like there's going to be return to more coverage, outside linebacker, versatility, and Perch is like, who cares if they can't rush the passer? And I, believe it or not, I actually agree with both of you. But this is, like a month ago or so, this is what I was saying about edge players are going to transition a little bit in the NFL. I think the edge linebackers are going to get smaller, faster, and better, more versatile players because of the way that the NFL is answering, these pass rushers like DeMarcus Ware, and so on, that you're going to have to become more like Von Miller in order to be successful. That's my hypothesis. Anyway, what I wanted to talk about for a second before we move on is inside linebackers, particularly guys who have coverage skills, who are 3-down inside linebackers, and who might be an upgrade in consideration at the 30 spot or in the second round, let's say. And, I'll start with UFC. I'm sure you got an opinion about this whole Reuben Foster, Hassan Reddick, Gerard Davis. Each of them has their strengths and fans.
Reuben Foster is going to be gone before the Steelers pick, and so is Hassan Reddick. I think that all 3 of us will agree with that. I mean, if either one are there, I would not be shocked to see the Steelers take Reddick or Reuben Foster if he's there. I mean, I know it doesn't fit necessarily what a lot of people would like. I don't know if they would take Reuben Foster if he fell that far, because there would probably have to be a reason. Maybe it's because of the 20-pound weight fluctuation between last year and this year. I don't know. But I think that Gerard Davis would possibly be on the board for the Steelers in a trade down. I don't know if they would take him at 30. I think the inside linebackers that can make an impact this year probably would be Reddick, Foster, Davis, maybe Rick Juan McMillan from Ohio State, and if I'm not full of crap, maybe TJ Watt making the transition inside. But that's...
What about You missed Zach Cunningham. I just wanted to get your thoughts on him, too.
I'm not the biggest fan. I know a lot of people are. I would consider him in the second round, early in the trade down in the second round. There was something about him. I have nothing in particular I can say. Like from film, I watched him play. There was something that just rubbed me the wrong way about him. I don't know. It's just a feeling about a player. Maybe it's just something I came into with, and once again, I'm a knucklehead, and I'm going to miss on a player. But I would definitely be a lot more interested maybe at 35 if they trade down and they can maybe pick up another pick. And real quick, I guarantee you, Perch agrees with me. If we can get a guy that can cover and rush the passer, or rush the passer and cover decently, we both would be very happy with him at outside linebacker.
No, sure. Hey, just if he can pass rush and you get the bonus of being good in coverage, that's pretty good. Hey, Perch, just quickly, T.J. Watt, Zach Cunningham, where do they play? What's their position, their ideal position in the NFL? I mean, FC just mentioned Watt at inside linebacker. To me, Watt is a 4-3 strong side outside linebacker. Where do you see him falling?
Well, yeah, I think he's versatile enough to play just about anywhere. I think ideally, I would put T.J. Watt as a 4-3 strong side backer. Zach Cunningham, I think, should be either a weak side 4-3 backer or on the inside in a 3-4. And for the record, I would not take any inside linebacker in the first round with all the more important needs that they have. But those are the two that, kind of profile to that spot that, and Hassan Reddick will be long gone. I think he'd be a great inside linebacker. But that's probably he goes in there.
Well, here's the thing. Hassan Reddick not only came in as a cornerback, but I don't know if you guys, how closely you watched his performance in the Senior Bowl, which was his first time really playing inside linebacker. But he, both in practices and in the game, he covered guys like a corner. Like his coverage skills, I don't think people are talking about them enough for a linebacker-sized guy or versatile guy. He doesn't have the greatest size or length to cover move tight ends and so on and so forth, but he has the movement skills and speed to do it for sure.
I'm not really impressed. I wouldn't take him over Reuben Foster. If I was looking for an inside linebacker in the top 15, I'm not sure I'd take Reuben Foster ahead of him. I mean, I think he's that good in that position. My question with Reddick is he really a 3-4 outside linebacker? Is he big and strong enough? Does he have enough pass rush? I'm not sold on that, but if he failed at that role, he's so good and so talented and so athletic, he can move inside and be an outstanding inside player. He can play outside in a 4-3 as a linebacker. I just don't, I've got questions with his size, if he can actually hold up as a, base down, rush in kind of guy.
Well, he's Ryan Shazier with a little, a skosh less straight line speed and, maybe a little better coverage skill to me. So it's like, would you put Ryan Shazier all full time as an outside backer? Probably not, but on a pinch, maybe he could do some for you. I don't know. I see them as pretty similar players in terms of style and fit. But that's me.
I think he's a lot, maybe more like Lawrence Timmons was coming out too, where Timmons had that crazy athleticism and was pretty versatile. And when he was first drafted, there was some talks. Well, the Steelers drafted him to play outside linebacker in a 3-4, if you remember that. And then they went and got Woodley the next round, and maybe he's going to be inside. But I see Reddick pretty similarly as Timmons.
Sure, I see. Well, let's talk about just quickly offense for a second. I mean, I've made the argument that the Steelers trotted out 4 or 5 guys, the majority of snaps last year, who were not really, quality NFL players. We also, finished the year with Sammy Coates, who's not only hand, but apparently spirit was broken halfway through the year. A guy named Kobe Hamilton, who was basically, their go-to guy at some point, and without Le'Veon Bell and, very little behind him right now in terms of running back. And then Ladarius Green, who, when he was on the field was showed exactly what a move tight end target of any quality could do for this offense and for Ben. So, I'm not sure, how do we approach this if we're the Steelers? I mean, I'm assuming Brian is at least going to get reinstated. Doesn't mean he's going to stick or be the guy he was before or so on and so forth. But, assuming that Brian gets reinstated and he is whatever he is, and assuming that I don't know. Let's take a quick poll. Any of the three of us believe that Ladarius Green will be healthy and his concussion problems are behind him?
No, he's done.
No.
Yeah, I would say it's a very
save on the cap.
Yeah, and I think that they have up until week 1 of the season to cut him and still not have any
where
cap,
they can long-term they can put them on long-term IR where you can get cap relief too, and that way Green doesn't have to pay back any part of the fucking signing bonus. Steelers will look to do it in the most classy manner they can. No, I'm being sincere. I mean,
yeah, I
think that we bought damaged goods, but I think we knew what we were getting, and we rolled the dice, and we came up snake eyes. It happens.
Okay, so I'll put this out there. The offensive needs for the Steelers, in order, and not necessarily they're really a drastic difference between the needs, but some sort of seam-threatening move tight end, a number 2 wide receiver, possibly candidate who can play some 3 or 4 for you if Bryant comes back healthy and stays that way, and running back who's a complementary back or a backup, and a backup quarterback who potentially, I mean, if you get lucky and you get a chance at a backup quarterback who might be a starter someday, all the better. Anybody want to disagree with my take? Do we need more than that? Like, do we need a starting running back because Bell is going to be unaffordable? Do we need some quarterback that can start next year because Ben's going to retire?
I think those are clearly the top 3. I would not. I mean, look, we've got eight draft picks. You can't spend 4 on offense, especially if you're looking at the higher up picks. Those pretty much have to go to fixing the defense. I think probably the biggest need is that move tight end. It's such a coin flip whether the guys that they have now are going to be healthy and able to fill that role. The third wide receiver, to me, I think Martavis Bryant will be reinstated. I'm hoping he's seen the light and keeps himself clean. But after Brown and Bryant, I don't like any of these guys. I mean, Eli Rogers is an okay guy you can go to. I don't think he's good enough to be that every down third wide receiver. Justin Hunter, I think, is just an insurance policy on Sammy Coates. I don't know what the hell Sammy Coates is at this point. DeMarcus Ayers is just another guy. They keep Darius Hayward-Bay around on the roster, but when all these receivers are banged up, he doesn't even see the field. He's basically just a special teamer at this point. And Kobe Hamilton, God bless him, he tries his hardest and works hard and blocks well, but he's not an NFL receiver. If they bring another guy in, he's probably, not going to make the cut. So they clearly need a third receiver, and they badly need a second back because without Bell, that offense, big time changes. I think Niall Davis, when they brought him in, is a kick returner and a number 3 back. Fitz Tucson, I think, is just a guy who holds a roster spot down. They really need that second running back. So I don't know how I'd rate those 3. Running back may even be the most pressing because there is no number 2 running back.
No, but here's the thing, Perch. There's 4 needs. So the thing is, they're not going to spend. I mean, I agree with you 100%. You cannot spend 4 picks on offense in this draft, unless there's some free agency move that we're yet to see happen. And therefore, there's 4, needs that they have. They have kicked the tires on prospects, and a lot of people think, there's those 4 needs: wide receiver, tight end, quarterback. And I personally would not touch quarterback though. I mean, unless a guy that they just had rated through the roof fell to them, a guy that they just thought that, hey, this is a big time long-term replacement for Ben, and he falls down, a round below where you thought he would, then maybe you pull the trigger. But for now, I mean, Ben's under contract for 3 more seasons. He's not leaving. I don't care what drama he pulls and what he says. He'll be here this year. He'll be here in 2018. He'll be here in 2019. I'm perfectly willing to not draft a quarterback till 2020. Suck for that year after the season that Ben leaves, get a top 15 pick, and go get your guy. So I can't see with as close as they are to a Super Bowl, with all the needs that they have, no way in the world do I spend a first 4-round pick on a quarterback. I just can't do it. Well, let me say this to you guys. I'll throw this out there to you. Any of these top quarterbacks that you think are not only a future starter, but a guy that you could win with, if God forbid something should happen to Ben. In other words, is there anybody in this draft who, if Ben, I'm knocking on wood here, if Ben was lost for the season in Week 10. Is there anybody in this draft that you think could game manage, make a couple of plays with Steelers as presently constructed, and win the Super Bowl? Let's say they don't play New England.
Absolutely not. No way. I mean, it's not like we have a defense to carry the team like we did when Ben first came about, and we had an offense full of veteran leaders, which we do now. We've got a lot of good players on offense, but this defense can't be the primary reason they win a championship. It's fallen on Ben. It's Ben in the offense. That's how we're going to win, and the defense needs to make some timely plays. I mean, I like two quarterbacks in this draft that I think that could be, good starting playoff caliber quarterbacks, and that's Trubisky and Mahomes. Those are the two guys that, if one of those guys fell to 30, maybe I would consider it. And then, if Watson or Kaiser fell to the second round, maybe I'd consider it. If Webb or Peterman and Kaya fell to like the fourth round, I would consider it. But I'm not pulling the trigger. I'm not, jumping through the roof to get any of those guys. I'd probably target like a Josh Dobbs in round 5 or 6, somebody who's going to fall that far down. I can't spend one of those top 4 or 5 picks on a quarterback.
Yeah, FC. I'm with you, Perch. I think those quarterbacks.
I am completely in disagreement with both of you. Going back to the move tight end, I would have move tight end probably as our 10th or 11th need, below that of kick returner. I really would. And
wait, hang on a second. Wait, hang on. Before you move on, here's what I'm going to throw at you. The performance of the offense in terms of scoring points and moving the football was light years different when Ladarius Green was healthy. It didn't matter who else was playing.
Right. But those touches that he would think that he was going to get are going to get to Martavius Bryant this year.
But still not threatening the inside, though. It's still not that seam. Go ahead. I'll let you go.
I mean, you're going to create that seam by forcing teams to double team. You want to double team AB, fine. Bryant, touchdown. You want to double team them both? Jesse James is good enough to beat any garbage that they're going to put, like any inside linebacker in the NFL. And if he isn't, then, we got decent kid from USC. He's made some plays. Grimble. So, yeah. Anyway, I also like Kaiser. What you said is if Ben went down Week 10, could any game manager? No, there's no game manager that's going to come in and win in the NFL. I mean, we like to call Joe Flacco a game manager. When he won the Super Bowl, he wasn't a game manager. I mean, you got to throw to win the ball or to win games. I think Kaiser, Mahomes could. I'm not a big fan of Watson. I'm not a big fan of Trubisky. I kind of agree with Perch in a way where if you honestly believe that Ben is pulling bullshit and there's 3 years left, I won't be shocked if he retires after this year. I really wouldn't. That if I'm confident, then no. I might sit to the 7th round or 6th or 7th round, and if Dobbs or Chad Kelly falls there, I may take a risk in the 6th or 7th round. For a quarterback, and that would make this draft a lot more appetizing for me. But if my jump-off point is we may be losing Ben, and I really can't depend on Le'Veon Bell. When's the last time he played in the last game of the season for the Pittsburgh Steelers? So that tells me I may need a quarterback, I might need a running back to go along with the cornerback that we need, which I completely agree with, the inside linebacker, the outside linebacker that we need. I think that the places where the Steelers are actually pretty secure depth-wise and talent-wise is defensive line. And that's if Hayward comes back.
O-line, too.
Yeah, O-line, we look pretty good. I mean, they did. I like the kid from LSU they took last year, and they managed to find themselves some rock'em sock'em robots at offensive guard. So, the O-line and D-line look good. You need, would I like to get O.J. Howard if he fell? Yeah, I would much rather. I liked it whenever, it was looking like, the athletic tight ends could be had in the second round. That's a lot more appetizing for me. It would be a lot easier if I believe that Colbert was actually a mover and a wheeler, a dealer a little bit in the draft where he would look to move down or move up if there's a player that he fell in love with. But he's pretty much plain vanilla.
Well, here's the thing, FC. If you like move tight ends who don't cost you a first or second round pick, this is the year, man. This is the year. Holy cow! There's
See, I don't
there's
necessarily think
there's 6 or 7 guys in
highly
day,
of
on day
a lot
3.
of these players as a lot of guys do. I've seen Gordon Leggett play every game of his college career.
No. I didn't say that I like the same guys that everybody likes, but this is like if there's 2 things that I look for in every draft, it's move tight ends and edge rushers. You guys probably figured that out by now. So I saw them all as much as you can see them. I mean, I saw guys that play FCS play 5 games or something, on tape. So anyway, I'm yeah, I like him as a sort of what was that kid from UCLA whose brother played in the NFL, tight end, went to Detroit?
Christian Fiora.
Yeah.
From Detroit.
Fourier,
that's his uncle.
Yeah,
from Colorado. Christian Fiora.
Yep.
And okay. It's like a red zone target.
Yeah.
I've never seen a player as dominant in the red zone in college football. I understand he played at Toledo, but I think he had like 19 red zone touchdowns. How's that possible?
Yeah, pretty good. I like some of those later guys. We'll get to that when we get into day 3 talking about the Steelers draft. Just quickly, one quarterback name we didn't talk about that I actually have pretty high, I think maybe higher than most, is Seth Russell from Baylor. And I understand Seth Russell had a couple of injuries, but the medical prognosis in terms of how they're saying now is that he's 100% and that there are no lasting effects from either the knee injury or I think he had a broken arm, not non-throwing arm, his other arm. But I felt like Seth Russell was a guy that will stand in to make a throw, which I know is Perch's number 1 factor, who has the arm, who had a lot of college success and didn't turn the ball over a lot. Was pretty accurate for a guy that you might be able to get the second half of day 3. I feel like he's someone that might be a appropriate target for the Steelers as a guy who has big upside, might be able to be available later, who's not going to cost you a first half of the draft pick. Any thoughts on Seth Russell? We'll start with you, Perch.
Yeah, I saw, like what you saw too, where he was a guy who was able to keep his eyes downfield and with heat coming at him and make passes. But just, that Baylor system, you plug in a quarterback every single year, and the whole Big 12, run and gun offense, you get so many quarterbacks putting up gaudy numbers there. But that's the range I'm looking at a quarterback, though, round 6 or round 7. So, yeah, if they pull the trigger on throw a 6th-round pick at this guy, Seth Russell, sure, that's fine. And I kind of feel the same about Josh Dobbs. Going into the season, I thought he was a pretty good quarterback and expected a lot more out of the Tennessee offense than what I actually saw. But I still think he does have a lot of talent, and that's one of the guys. I think Chad Kelly's a knucklehead. He's got all the tools in the world, but 10-cent head. I don't know if I would draft him, but Dobbs and the kid from Virginia Tech, Evans, Seth Russell. Those are the guys that I would look at for the Steelers realistically in this year, where you get one of those guys, you put them in the system for 2 to 3 years. Maybe they challenge Landry Jones. Maybe they develop into some diamond in the rough and take over for Ben 3 or 4 years down the line. But I can't see going after one of these first and second round guys.
Oh, you need Seth Russell's head. What's his name? Dobbs. Josh Dobbs' head on Chad Kelly's body.
That might work. Yeah.
FC. Is there how much difference? And this is a subject that we never talk about enough. We should probably have more pre-draft shows. But this thing about when there's not that much difference between the guy who's going to go in the 3rd round and the guy who's going to go in the 6th round, that to me is, I think, what I build my entire value board on is guys that are very, very close to the same grade, if not the same grade, as a guy that's going to go 3 or 4 rounds earlier. That to me is the sort of player you ought to go after. In the quarterback world, I'm going to ask you this question. How much difference is there between Nathan Peterman and Cooper Rush of Central Michigan? Because to me, neither really sports a big arm. They're both sort of, guys that I think long-term in the NFL are backup quarterbacks. One guy's going to go round 3, maybe sneak into round 2. And the other guy's going to be a 7th rounder, undrafted free agent. In terms of the role as a role player, I feel like both of them would be, good backup quarterback candidates. But isn't that something that it's just the name school, the name recognition pushes a guy up sometimes 2 or 3 rounds.
Absolutely. I'm a fan of Peterman, and I'm actually somewhat of a fan of Cooper Rush. I think Peterman has a better arm. I think they have similar ball placement, which is good to very good. They're both very intelligent. They both absolutely love the game. I wouldn't be surprised if both are very successful coaches whenever they're done, with the football thing. Peterman has actually hinted that he would like to maybe go in that direction. And Cooper Rush, he is crazy whack smart. He was one of the guys that football might have been a step down in profession for him. Meaning, he's supposed to be ridiculously smart. He's he get a job on Wall Street in finance. You actually picked 2 guys that I've actually studied quarterbacks because I have a bad feeling about Ben, and I completely understand where Perch is coming from, and I hope he's right. And I know a lot of intelligent people that are telling me the exact same thing, that there ain't no way Ben's going to walk away from the money. Ben's a drama queen. We've been putting up with this shit since the day he got drafted, and it's all true. But I'm still a sucker, and a knucklehead. So with those 2 things, yes, definitely. I think that Peterman being the quarterback at Pitt, Peterman being the quarterback at Tennessee, Jim Chaney, and all these people having great things to say about Peterman and how much he loves the game and how he was in the offensive quarterback's ear, Matt Caneda's ear all summer about the direction the offense should go. That's in Perch didn't get into it, but the top 3 out of the top 4 quarterbacks have never taken a snap from under center in their college careers. 2 of them have never taken a snap from under center in their life playing the game of football. Think about that. Never. North Carolina was a fucking shotgun offense, even on the red zone.
Sure.
They ran the red zone.
Hang on. How many
0 snaps.
How many snaps under center did Ben Roethlisberger?
Yeah.
How many snaps from under center did
in
Ben
the red zone
take?
and then in the goal line offense, he was at least under center. What I'm saying is, Trubisky actually came out of the game. They put another quarterback in at times on the goal line. Now, I don't know if this is true. It's from the North Carolina site. I just posted it in a little podcast thing. How crazy is that?
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of nuts.
I'm thinking of Mitch Trubisky. I think he could be a great quarterback. Same thing could be said for Deshaun Watson. He at least has been under center in the goal line. But I hate to tell you, most of the offenses ran from under center. Even Tom Brady, I bet you, has to be close to 50% under center. Breeze and him would be the closest to being out of the gun more than under center.
Well, I guess if you draft Mitch Trubisky, you have to draft Tyrone Swoops as well to come in at the goal line, right? Okay.
Hey, I want to move on and get into our Steelers war room as promised. Just very quickly, Perch, I'll start with you. Anybody in the top part of this draft that you absolutely don't want? Who is somebody that to talk to the Steelers?
Somebody who's been linked to the Steelers that we may take in the first round. I mean, it's probably going to be the same guy everybody else is going to be throwing out there. Some of the outside linebacker guys or defensive ends that we're not a big fan of. Takkarist McKinley is probably the first and foremost that I really wouldn't want in the first round. Who's the other one here? There's at least one more. The safety from Michigan, Jabril Peppers. I just don't see how they fit or improve the cause very much with a first round pick.
Yeah. And in terms of the sort of Derek Barnett, Charles Harris, Carl Lawson, where do you guys fall on them?
Oh, I love Barnett.
He loves Barnett, and I don't blame him. But I'm going to say no, because I just have not liked the feeling that we've gotten out of Missouri and out of the SEC as pass rushers the last 5 years. So I would like to maybe go in a different direction, but I can understand.
Put me down for Lawson, too. I would take Lawson in the first round as well. I'm probably out on an island on that one, but I've got more faith in the guy than I think most, maybe more than I should. But I like him. Might be my overall favorite for who they're going to land in the first round is Lawson. Yeah.
And then the last question, who do you have got down for the biggest bust in this draft? Who do you think will be the biggest bust? And this will probably be players that drafted ahead of 30, because by the time you get to 30, I'm not going to see a lot of bust.
I got 2 possibilities, which I might get laughed at for, but I'll throw them out there. Solomon Thomas from Stanford, and Jonathan Allen from Alabama.
Yeah, I can see that.
How about 2 top fucking 5 guys that? And I'll give a quick explanation why. Jonathan Allen does nothing special. He's not super big. He's not super fast. He's not super strong. And I heard people compare him to the kid Aaron Donald that came out of Pitt. And I just don't see it. And Solomon Thomas is I just don't know where he's going to play in the NFL. He's 6'2"ish. He's 272-ish. Is he going to play outside linebacker? He's going to go from nose guard to outside linebacker in the NFL. That's interesting. So,
I'll throw another one.
Aaron Donald territory. Go ahead.
Yeah, the one I'll throw in that people might think is going to be crazy is Leonard Fournette. I don't think he'll have a bad career.
With you.
I think if this was 1986, heck yeah, But to me, he's kind of a one-dimensional, pounded in there running back who doesn't do a whole ton in the passing game. And I think he'll have a nice career for 4 or 5 years. But that's not a top 10 pick. He's a running back. 2, he's not. I'd have less of a problem taking Christian McCaffrey in the first top 10 picks than I would Fournette, just because of the way the game is now. Imagine a guy like McCaffrey in a big-time passing game. If you saw what Green Bay did last year with a converted wide receiver playing running back, imagine what a team like Green Bay or New England could do with a Christian McCaffrey. I think that his value is so much greater than Fournette, even though Fournette is a better, between the tackles, traditional running back by far. So just to me, he's not worth the top 10 pick that somebody's probably going to spend to get him.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sort of with you guys on all of that, and just Fournette being, is he a 3-down back in the NFL? And the whole weight, shifting thing. That's another. I'm very suspicious of guys whose weight fluctuates so much from, like the end of the season to the combine and back to their pro day, and that whole thing where you try to manipulate weight to run faster or whatever. Not sure I buy all that. I'll throw out a couple of, probably scarier risk take. I mean, meaning I'm going to say something and you're going to be like, no way. I'll throw the name O.J. Howard out. I don't think O.J. Howard will be a bust. I think he'll be a very good, solid NFL player. I don't know that he's a superstar. I'm unsure. Yeah, I'm unsure about, he wasn't really ever asked to defeat coverage at Alabama. It was kind of like he blocked a lot and got wide open on play action. And because, the threat was other places and guys like that, I'm not sure if, even though he has incredible physical talent and is very smart and seems like a really, loves football kind of a guy, I'm not sure he becomes a big enough superstar to be a top 10 pick, but you couldn't go too wrong drafting him, but that's just one guy. The other guy whose name hasn't come up yet, who I'm really, really down on compared to most people, is Marlon Humphreys, the cornerback from Alabama. And I'll tell you this, I think Marlon Humphreys is going to be the Steelers pick at 30. I don't think he's going to go before the Steelers go there. They went to his pro day. He's at a position of need. He's an underage player. He comes from a Power 5 football factory school. To me, he's like, if he's there at 30, the Steelers run to the podium for him. My problem with him.
Funny. I got similar type story. My biggest fear is the Steelers. They had a private workout. They hosted him for a visit. They visited with him at the Senior Bowl. They visited him with him at the Combine. Tim Williams from Alabama. That's who I could see the draft in the first round.
Yeah, those are both,
dope. He also likes the dope. Hey,
he'll fit right in the culture. Well, the thing about Humphreys, just to finish my
reefers.
Thought, promise we'll move on. Marlon Humphrey, he, has an incredible talent for giving up the big play behind him. And I mean, it's like, yes, he's young. Yes, he can maybe unlearn some of that's instincts that you develop over time as a player. But I just feel like he looks, even though he tested well, this is the argument people use with Jordan Willis. He tested great, but he looks stiff on tape. And I'm using the same argument that I defied for Jordan Willis on Marlon Humphreys. To me, Marlon Humphreys looks stiff on tape, and maybe that's because of his reactions to football and not necessarily his physical skills. But either way, I think I might have, five corners over top of him or something like that. So anyway, there's a guy I can see. All right, enough.
And that'll do it for part 1 of the SteelerFury Podcast pre-draft extravaganza. We move on in part 2 to actually construct a Steelers 7-round draft as if we were running the Steelers War Room. So be sure to check that out in the next episode. And that's it for part 1, SteelerFury Podcast. I'm your host, Bradshaw Ben. We'll see you next time.
Steelers.